My wife laughed while draining my business dry, but hidden cameras captured everything. You know that feeling when you're watching a Texans game, fourth quarter, your team's up by 3 touchdowns, and you just know nothing can go wrong? That was my life at 34. Michael Rhodes, that's me, owner of Rhodes Auto Repair on the north side of Houston, married to the most beautiful woman in Harris County, and finally sleeping through the night without checking for tripwires. After 2 tours in Afghanistan, where breakfast could be your last meal and every pothole might hide an IED, I crave boring. Give me oil-stained coveralls over body armor any day. The smell of WD-40 became my new cologne, and the purr of a perfectly tuned V8 was better than any symphony. My shop wasn't huge, but it was mine. Started with a loan from a VA and a dream smaller than a Honda Civic's engine compartment. 5 bays, 3 mechanics, and enough regular customers to keep the lights on and the beer cold. Lauren entered my life like a cool breeze through a Houston summer. Met her at a barbecue joint off I-45, the kind where they give you white bread instead of plates and the sauce recipe is older than the Constitution. She laughed at my terrible jokes about carburetors, said my hands looked honest. Funny thing about honest hands, they're usually too busy working to notice what's happening behind their back. The wedding was small. My army buddies, her college friends, and enough brisket to feed a battalion. She moved into my life seamlessly, like a new transmission dropping into place. Perfect fit. No grinding gears. Lauren had this gift with numbers that made my head spin. While I could diagnose a blown head gasket from 2 blocks away, she could make QuickBooks sing like Beyoncé. Tax season? She handled it. Invoicing? All her. Payroll? I didn't even know which day it happened. Some guys might call that lazy. I called it trust. My grandpa used to say trust is like a fan belt. You don't think about it until it snaps, and then you're stuck on the side of the road in 100-degree heat. Old man was right about a lot of things. Should have listened closer. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday. Nothing special about Tuesdays except they're far enough from Monday to stop complaining, and too far from Friday to start celebrating. Mrs. Henderson, sweet lady who'd been bringing her Corolla to me since I opened, mentioned she'd been double-charged last month. Lauren handled it with a smile, blamed it on our new guy, Carlos. Poor kid barely knew how to work the register, so it made sense. I apologized, gave Mrs. Henderson a free oil change, and forgot about it. 2 weeks later, the petty cash was short. $50. Not enough to panic over, but enough to notice. Lauren said she'd seen Carlos near the office. Maybe he needed lunch money. I wanted to trust Carlos. Kid was trying to support his mom and little sister. But I also wanted to trust my wife. Guess which one won? Then came the Acme Corp situation. Big fleet contract, 30 vehicles, steady money. The kind of contract that lets you upgrade from Bud Light to craft beer. They called to say they were switching to Travis Collins' shop across the street. No explanation, just goodbye and good luck. Travis, that smug piece of work with his fancy European car certifications and his shop that looked like an Apple store had a baby with a Mercedes dealership. I'd lost bids before, but this one stung. We'd had Acme for 3 years. Lauren rubbed my shoulders at night, told me business was business, said maybe we should focus on smaller, more loyal customers. Her fingers worked the knots in my neck while she talked about strategic positioning and market segmentation. Business school words that sounded smart but felt empty like diet soda. Still, her touch was magic. I let it go. The pattern emerged slowly, like oil seeping through a worn gasket. A receipt here, a missing invoice there. Each incident small enough to ignore, together adding up to something that made my soldier instincts twitch. In Afghanistan, we called it ambient anxiety, that feeling when everything looks normal but your gut says the normal is what'll kill you. My breaking point came during a Cowboys game. Fourth quarter, we're down by 7, and Dak throws an interception. I wanted to check our accounts. Maybe seeing black numbers would ease the sting of watching blue and silver fail again. Lauren was at her book club, the one that seemed to read a lot of wine labels. Perfect time to review the finances. Maybe understand why our profit margins look thinner than gas station coffee. The password didn't work. Now, I'm not a tech guy. I still miss phones with actual buttons. But I know my passwords. Used the same 3 since 2005, rotating them like tires. This wasn't any of them. I tried variations, adding numbers, capitals. Nothing. The laptop screen stared back at me, that little password box shaking side to side like it was disappointed in me. Lauren came home around 11, smelling like Pinot Grigio and perfume that wasn't hers. Book club must have gotten wild discussing whatever Oprah recommended this month. I asked about the password, casual as asking about the weather. She laughed, said she'd updated it for security, wrote it on a Post-it in the office. She'd show me tomorrow. Then she'd kiss me, the kind of kiss that usually led somewhere good, but tonight it felt like a distraction, like throwing a smoke grenade. The next morning, while Lauren slept off her book club hangover, I drove to work early. Houston traffic at 5 a.m. is beautiful. Empty highways stretching like promises. Found the Post-it right where she said. New password worked fine. But what I found in those files made less sense than a diesel engine running on hopes and dreams. Transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. Invoices marked paid that I knew weren't sent. Discrepancies small enough to miss if you weren't looking, large enough to matter if you were. The kind of creative accounting that would make Enron blush. My hands shook, not from anger, from recognition. This was sabotage, methodical and patient, the kind we'd trained to spot overseas, except the enemy wasn't planting IDs. They were planting doubts. That afternoon, I stopped by Best Buy, told the kid in the blue shirt I needed nanny cams in my shop, security reasons. He showed me these tiny things, smaller than a matchbox, with phone apps and cloud storage. The future is wild. Bought for cash, no receipt. Installing them felt like betrayal. Each camera I mounted, one in the office, one overlooking the register, 2 in the shop, was an admission that my marriage had become a combat zone. But here's the thing about combat. Pretending it's not happening doesn't make the bullets any less real. Lauren noticed nothing. That evening she made my favorite, chicken fried steak with gravy thick enough to patch drywall. We watched Jeopardy, her head on my shoulder, calling out answers she knew I didn't know. Normal, comfortable, perfect, like a car running smooth right before the engine throws a rod. 3 days passed. I didn't check the cameras. Couldn't. Each morning I'd wake up, tell myself today was a day, then find 17 other things that needed doing. Rebuild the transmission. Replace brake pads. Detailed Mrs. Chen's minivan until you could perform surgery in it. Anything to avoid confirming what my gut already knew. Friday night arrived like a court summons. Lauren announced she was heading to her sister's place in Katy. Girls' weekend. They were going to hit up some wine festival. Probably Instagram every glass. She packed light, kissed me heavy, and left in the Accord I just tuned up for her. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd literally ensured her smooth getaway. The house felt different without her. Quieter, but not peaceful. Like the silence before an ambush. I grabbed a Shiner Bock, then another, try and build liquid courage. The laptop sat on the kitchen table, closed, but somehow screaming at me. The cameras had been recording for 72 hours. 72 hours of truth, waiting. My phone had the app. 2 taps and I'd know. Simple as that. But simple and easy aren't the same thing. Easy is changing oil. Simple is admitting your marriage might be a lie. I opened a 3rd beer, then thought better of it. If I was going to do this, I'd do it clear-headed. The soldier in me knew you don't go into battle drunk on anything but adrenaline. 10 o'clock. The house creaked the way Texas houses do, settling into the clay soil, foundations shifting imperceptibly. Everything shifts in Texas. The ground, the weather, the loyalties. I opened the laptop, then my phone. The app icon stared at me, a little eye logo that seemed too on the nose. My thumb hovered over like a drone over a target, waiting for confirmation to engage. 1 tap. That's all it would take. 1 tap to either confirm I'm a paranoid fool who doesn't deserve his wife, or to validate every instinct screaming that something was rotten in my suburban paradise. My finger moved like it weighed 100 pounds. In Afghanistan, we had a saying, the last step before a minefield is the hardest, because it's the last one where you can turn back. But I'd already bought the cameras, already lied about where they came from, already started down this road. Turning back now would be like stopping CPR because you're tired of pumping. Sometimes you have to see things through to their terrible conclusion. I tapped the icon. The app opened with a cheerful chime that felt obscene. For camera feeds appeared, tiny windows into my life's corners. The timestamp showed current time, empty shop, dark office, silent register. I scroll back. 72 hours of footage, compressed into a timeline thin as a razor blade. My fingers swiped left, rewinding time, looking for something I desperately didn't want to find. The future, I realized, was already written in the past 3 days. I just had to have the courage to read it, or the stupidity. Sometimes they're the same thing. My fingers stopped scrolling. Monday, 2 p.m., the office camera. Movement. My heart rate jumped like a tachometer hitting red line. This was it, the moment before everything changed. The last second of ignorance before knowledge made everything real. I set the phone down, walked to the window. Outside, Houston sprawled in all its illuminated glory. 10 million people living their lives, unaware that Michael Rhodes was about to detonate his own existence. A plane blinked across the sky, heading to Bush Airport, carrying people to new places or back home. I envied them their destinations, their certainty about where they were going. When I picked up the phone again, my hands were steady. 20 years of military training, finally good for something. I hit play. The video started, grainy but clear enough. And just like that, the timer on my old life hit 0. What came next would be captured in pixels and pain, archived in the cloud like evidence at a crime scene, which I was about to learn was exactly what my marriage had become. The video quality was garbage, like something filmed on a gas station security camera from 1995. But it was clear enough to watch my life turn into a documentary nobody would want to see. Monday, 2 p.m., the office door opened. Lauren walked in first, checking over her shoulder like a teenager sneaking cookies. Then came Travis Collins. Travis freaking Collins, the guy who installed a coffee bar in his auto shop, who wore polo shirts with his logo embroidered like he was running for country club president, who once told me at a Chamber of Commerce meeting that my shop had character, the way you compliment your grandmother's plastic-covered couch. That Travis Collins was in my office with my wife, while I was elbow deep in a Silverado's transmission 2 bays over. They moved with practiced ease. No hesitation. No awkwardness. This wasn't their first rodeo, as we say in Texas. This was routine, like a morning coffee run. Lauren went straight to my computer, while Travis stood behind her, his hand on her waist. Familiar, comfortable, the kind of touch that takes months to develop, years maybe. I paused the video, walked to the kitchen, opened the fridge, stared at leftover chicken fried steak like it held answers. It didn't. The Corona bottles clinked as I grabbed one, then put it back. No, I needed to be stone cold sober for this. Water instead. Room temperature. Punishment for being blind. Back to the laptop. Play. Lauren's fingers danced across the keyboard with purpose. She pulled up QuickBooks, then another program I didn't recognize. Some kind of database. Travis leaned closer, pointing at the screen. They were discussing something intently, professionally, like business partners, which I was starting to realize they were. The audio was muffled, but audible. I grabbed my earbuds, the good ones Lauren bought me last Christmas. Noise canceling. The irony was thick enough to spread on toast. Connected them, rewound, hit play again. Their voices filled my skull, intimate as whispers in the dark. Travis spoke first, his voice carrying that fake concern he used with customers, asking about specific accounts, maintenance contracts, customer lists. Lauren answered with details I didn't know she knew. Profit margins on parts, markup percentages, which customers paid late, which ones tipped the mechanics. She'd been studying my business like a medical student studies anatomy. Every weakness mapped, every strength cataloged. Then she pulled up the Acme Corp file. My biggest contract. 30 vehicles. Steady work. The difference between surviving and thriving. She showed Travis their payment history, service schedules, the personal cell number of their fleet manager that I'd worked 2 years to get. He took photos with his phone. Each click of his camera might as well have been a nail in a coffin. 20 minutes in, they shifted from business to pleasure. The kiss was sudden but not surprising, like watching a car accident in slow motion. You see it coming but can't look away. His hands in her hair, her arms around his neck. In my office, next to the framed picture of us at Galveston Beach, the one where she's laughing at a seagull that stole my sandwich. I fast-forwarded. Tuesday's footage showed nothing unusual. Wednesday, more nothing. Thursday afternoon, they returned. This time, Travis brought champagne. Actual champagne, like they were celebrating. They were. Lauren showed him an email on her phone. Acme Corp's cancellation notice. The one I'd received that morning. They toasted. In my office. With champagne. While I was outside, explaining to my mechanics why we'd need to cut hours. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was the commentary. They talked about me like I was a sitcom character. Travis called me Captain America, but not in a good way. Lauren laughed. Said I still folded my underwear military style. Still made the bed with hospital corners. Still believed in handshake deals in the contract world. They found my honor hilarious. My trust even funnier. Then came the phrase. The one that rearranged my molecular structure. Lauren was sitting on my desk, legs swinging like a kid on a playground. Travis asked if she felt guilty. She tilted her head, considering, then spoke words that turned my blood to antifreeze. She said I was sweet, like a golden retriever. Loyal, dependable, not too bright. Said I still thought our marriage was perfect because I needed to believe in something perfect after Afghanistan. That my damage made me easy to manage. That loving me was like having a pet that paid the bills. Then she said it. The thing that killed whatever was left of Michael Rhodes. Husband. She said at least when this was over, she'd have enough saved to start fresh somewhere interesting. Maybe California. Somewhere with culture. My hand found a scar on my forearm. Shrapnel from an IED outside Kandahar. The medic said I was lucky, missed the artery by an inch. Funny how luck works. Survive a war to die in your kitchen, watching your marriage explode on a laptop screen. Friday's footage was a grand finale. Lauren in the office alone, transferring files to a thumb drive, customer database, vendor contacts, 5 years of business relationships, copied in 10 minutes. She hummed while she worked. Some pop song I recognized but couldn't name. The sound of someone without conscience, going about their day. She made a phone call. Speakerphone, because why not? Travis answered on the first ring. They discussed their timeline. 2 more months, she figured. Enough time to document my supposed mismanagement, make it look like the business was failing. Then she'd suggest selling to Travis for pennies on the dollar. A mercy killing. She'd get half in the divorce, plus whatever they'd skimmed. Travis would get a turnkey operation with built-in customers. Everyone wins, except the idiot folding his underwear military style. They ended the call with promises to meet that weekend. Her sister's place in Katy. The wine festival story was cover. Her sister was in on it, apparently, providing alibis like a good accomplice should. The corruption ran deeper than a Texas oil well. I sat back. The laptop screen dimmed, then went dark. Energy saver mode. Wish my marriage had one of those. The house was silent except for the AC kicking on, that Houston necessity that runs 11 months a year. The mechanical hum felt appropriate. Everything reduced to mechanisms. Input, output, cause, effect, betrayal, consequence. My phone buzzed. Text from Lauren. Picture from the wine festival. Her and her sister, glasses raised, smiles wide. Having so much fun. Miss you, baby. Heart emoji. Wine glass emoji. Kiss emoji. The holy trinity of deception. I stared at her face, searching for the stranger wearing my wife's skin. She looked the same. That was the terrifying part. Evil doesn't advertise. I typed back. Miss you too. Have fun. Added my own heart emoji because that's what the old Michael would do. The one who existed before I pressed play. That guy was gone now, evaporated like Houston morning dew. What remained was something else. Colder, clearer, focused like a rifle scope. The soldier in me recognized this feeling. Combat clarity. When the mortar rounds stop being scary and becomes simply facts to deal with. When emotion becomes liability and planning becomes everything. My drill sergeant called it the machine mode. You switch off the human parts to get the job done. Later, maybe you switch them back on. Maybe. I pulled up a blank document. Started typing. Not a suicide note. A battle plan. Assets, liabilities. Intelligence gathered, resources needed. The kind of list I'd made before missions. Except this mission was my life, and the enemy was serving wine to her sister, toasting my stupidity. The funny thing about trust is that once it breaks, you see everything differently, like switching from regular to ultraviolet light in a hotel room. Suddenly, all the stains are visible. Every late night became suspicious. Every girl's trip, questionable. Every smile, potentially false. The past rewrote itself in real time, memories updating with new context. That weekend she spent at her mother's when I had food poisoning. The business conference in Dallas where she texted constantly about missing me. The night she came home late from yoga with energy, like she'd done more than child's pose. My wedding ring caught the laptop screen's reflection. Simple band, nothing fancy. We'd picked them out at a mall jewelry store, pretending we knew what we were looking for. She wanted something elaborate. Settle for simple, because that's what we could afford. Now she was upgrading everything, including husbands. Travis probably had a Rolex, probably drove a Tesla, probably knew wine beyond red or white. But Travis had made one mistake. He'd underestimated the soldier, thought military meant simple, thought honor meant stupid, thought predictable meant harmless. He was about to learn that wars aren't won with champagne toasts and stolen customer lists. They're won with patience, planning, and the ability to eat cold MREs while waiting for the perfect shot. I saved video files, multiple copies, cloud storage, thumb drive, external hard drive, the digital equivalent of ammunition. Then I cleared the browser history, closed the laptop, and did the dishes. Lauren hated coming home to a messy kitchen. The old Michael would have left them. The new one understood that maintaining cover required maintaining patterns. The enemy must not know that you know. Bedtime. I lay in the California King we bought on sale, staring at the ceiling fan that wobbled slightly, needed balancing. Everything needed balancing. The sheets smelled like her perfume, something French I couldn't pronounce. Probably chosen specifically because I couldn't pronounce it. Another inside joke for her and Travis. Sleep wouldn't come. Didn't want it to. Instead, I planned. Lawyers, evidence, timeline. The infrastructure of revenge built carefully as a transmission rebuild. No rush moves. No emotional decisions. Just cold mechanical precision. The same approach that got me home from Afghanistan. The same focus that built my business. The same determination that would now dismantle theirs. My phone lit up. Another text from Lauren. Heading to bed. Love you. I responded immediately. Love you too. Sleep well. The lie came easily. Turns out I'd been practicing for months without knowing it. Every time she'd said it, I'd responded in kind. Muscle memory of marriage, continuing even after the heart stops beating. Outside, Houston hummed its midnight song. Sirens in the distance, probably heading to the medical center. Drunk drivers on I-45. Refineries burning off excess. Flames dancing against the sky like funeral pyres. The city that never sleeps, or at least only dozes fitfully. Like me, like everyone nursing wounds in the dark. Tomorrow, Lauren would come home. We'd have breakfast tacos from the place on Westheimer she loved. She'd tell me about the wine festival, edit the story for credibility. I'd listen, nod, kiss her goodbye when she left for her yoga class that was definitely yoga. The performance would be flawless. Because that's what soldiers do. We adapt. We survive. We win. The scar on my arm throbbed. Phantom pain from old damage. But phantom pain is still pain. Still real to the person feeling it. Like phantom marriages, phantom love, phantom trust. All real until proven otherwise. And brother, had I just gotten proof. 3 a.m., the sacred hour of insomnia and revelation. I got up, went to the garage, started organizing tools. Wrenches by size. Sockets in order. The toolbox clicked shut with finality. Chrome gleaming under fluorescent lights. Control what you can control. Fix what you can fix. And what you can't fix. Sometimes you don't repair the engine. You pull out entirely and start fresh. But Travis and Lauren had made one critical error. They confused a soldier's discipline with a fool's rigidity. They mistook kindness for weakness. They thought they were playing against a golden retriever, loyal and easily managed. They were wrong. A golden retriever wants to please. A wolf wants to win. And for the last 10 years, I'd been a wolf pretending to be domesticated. The Michael who pressed play on that video was gone, stripped down a bone, and rebuilt into something colder, sharper. The machine was online. The mission was clear. Let the games begin. Let the games begin. That's what I told myself at 4 a.m, standing in my garage with organized tools and a reorganized life. The next 2 weeks became the performance of my lifetime. Better than any high school play. Better than pretending to enjoy my mother-in-law's tuna casserole. Better than acting surprised at surprise parties I'd seen coming a mile away. Lauren came home Sunday afternoon, glowing with fake wine festival stories and real betrayal. I kissed her at the door, asked about the Pinot versus the cab, carried her overnight bag to our bedroom. Normal husband things. She showed me photos on her phone, carefully curated lies featuring her sister, and strategically placed wine glasses. I made appropriate sounds of interest, even saved one to my phone, said it would make a nice wallpaper. The little things sell the big lie. Monday morning arrived like any other. Coffee, newspaper, weather check. Lauren made eggs over easy, my favorite. Kissed me goodbye with lips that had kissed Travis 72 hours earlier. I went to work, changed oil, rotated tires, acted like a man whose world hadn't imploded. The mechanics noticed nothing. Customers complained about prices like always. The world kept spinning, even though mine had stopped. That evening, I made the first call. Jim Morrison, yes, really, and no, he couldn't sing, had been my squad leader in Afghanistan, and now practiced law in downtown Houston. Specialized in business disputes and divorce. Said he'd been waiting for my call for years. That anyone who'd seen combat could spot an ambush, and marriage was just another kind of battlefield. Dark humor. But Marines are like that. We find comedy in catastrophe. Jim came by after hours, parking a Suburban behind the shop where nobody would see. We sat in my office, the same office where Lauren and Travis had celebrated my destruction, and reviewed the evidence. Jim watched the videos with the detached interest of a medical examiner. No judgment, no sympathy, just professional assessment. When it finished, he leaned back and said something I'll never forget. He said revenge is like engine repair. Rushing it just creates more problems. Do it right the first time. We spent 3 hours building the strategy. Documentation, timeline, legal precedent. Jim had seen worse. He assured me, at least nobody was dead. The bar for success in divorce law was apparently pretty low. We needed 2 weeks to prepare everything properly. 2 weeks of me pretending my marriage wasn't a crime scene. 2 weeks of Lauren thinking she was a predator instead of prey. The hard part wasn't the deception. It was the intimacy. Sharing a bed with someone who'd shared everything with your enemy. Listening to her breathing in the dark. Knowing each breath was counting down to detonation. She'd curl against me in her sleep. Muscle memory of affection her conscious mind had abandoned. Those moments were the worst. The body remembering what the heart had forgotten. Tuesday through Thursday blurred together. Work, home, dinner, TV, bed. Rinse and repeat. I became an automation of myself, running on predetermined patterns. Lauren noticed nothing because there was nothing to notice. I'd always been steady, predictable, reliable old Michael. The only difference was now I knew it was a weakness she'd exploited rather than a strength she'd admired. Friday arrived with thunderstorms, the kind Houston gets when the Gulf decides to throw a tantrum. Perfect weather for what came next. I called Travis from my office phone, making sure the camera caught everything. Told him I was tired, burned out, thinking about selling. Could we meet to discuss? Professional courtesy between competitors. His ego practically leaked through the phone. Of course he'd meet. How about Monday? He'd bring his business advisor, someone neutral who understood valuations. Lauren overheard the call, came into the office with concern painted on her face like makeup. Was I okay? Was I sure about this? Maybe I should think it over the weekend. Her performance deserved an Oscar. I assured her it was just exploratory, nothing definite. She hugged me, said whatever I decided, she'd support. The lies came so easily to both of us now. We'd become fluent in deception. The weekend passed in preparations disguised as normalcy. Breakfast at Waffle House Saturday morning, where I let Lauren order for me because she knew what I liked. Home Depot run for paint we'd never use. Dinner at the steakhouse where we'd had our first date, me staring at her over ribeye and remembering when those eyes held love instead of calculation. Sunday was church, where I prayed for strength, and she probably prayed for my continued ignorance. God has a sense of humor, giving us both what we needed. Monday arrived like Christmas morning if Christmas involved destroying lives instead of wrapping paper. I dressed carefully. Not my usual shop clothes, but my one good suit, the one from our wedding. Psychological warfare. Lauren noticed, said I looked handsome, kissed me for luck. I tasted betrayal and smiled. The shop was closed for inventory. Sign on the door. Lights dimmed except in the office. Jim arrived first, parking around back again. We tested the presentation system, the 70-inch TV I'd bought specifically for this moment. Everything worked perfectly. The stage was set. Travis arrived at exactly 2 p.m. because punctuality was part of his brand. Lauren came separately 5 minutes later, maintaining the illusion of independence. They sat across from my desk. Travis in his designer jeans and Columbia fishing shirt, Lauren in the dress she knew I loved. The one with small flowers that made her look innocent. Costume design for the final act. I started with small talk. Weather, sports, the new highway construction. Travis relaxed, probably thinking I was nervous. Lauren played with her wedding ring, a gesture I'm sure she thought showed loyalty. The irony was thick enough to choke on. Then I suggested we start with a brief overview of the company's assets, just so everyone understood what we were discussing. The presentation began with legitimate slides, revenue charts, customer retention rates, equipment inventory. Travis leaned forward, interested. Lauren took notes on a legal pad, playing her role perfectly. Then I clicked to the next slide. The screen went black for a second. Then their faces appeared in grainy security footage. The first 10 seconds were silent. Just them in my office, kissing like teenagers. Travis froze. Lauren's pen fell from her hand, clattering on the floor like a gavel. I let it play. Their hands on each other. Their comfortable intimacy. The evidence of months, maybe years of deception. Then I unmuted it. Their laughter filled the room. Lauren's voice calling me predictable. Travis responding that I was too trusting for my own good. The discussion of the Acme contract. How easy it had been to steal. The toast with champagne while I was outside working. Every word a nail in their coffin. The video ran for 12 minutes. I didn't say a word. Didn't need to. When it ended, the room was silent except for the air conditioning humming through the vents. Travis opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again, like a fish drowning in air. Lauren stared at the black screen, as if willing it to show something different. I leaned back in my chair, the same chair where she'd sat while planning my destruction. I finally spoke, told them the negotiation was over. No sale, no deal, no discussion. Travis started to stand, maybe to leave, maybe to come at me. We'll never know, because that's when Jim walked in. 6'3", a Marine Corps lawyer, carrying enough paperwork to start a small library. He placed the divorce papers in front of Lauren with the precision of a sniper placing shots. No-fault divorce. Texas being a community property state, though adultery might affect the settlement. Her hands shook as she saw her name typed in cold legal font. The business consultant persona evaporated like Houston morning dew. Travis got his own stack. Civil suit for corporate espionage, theft of trade secrets, intentional interference with business relations. Big words that meant big money. Jim explained that copies of everything had already been filed with the Harris County District Attorney. Criminal charges were being considered. The FBI might get involved if interstate commerce was affected. Travis's 10 faded to the color of copy paper. Jim pulled out a flash drive, identical to the one Lauren had used to steal my customer database. He set it on the desk with a click that sounded like a coffin closing. Told them this contained all surveillance footage, financial records, and a detailed timeline of their activities. The district attorney already had a copy. So did the Texas State Board of Insurance, since insurance fraud was involved. Oh, and the IRS might be interested in those unreported cash transactions. Nobody screamed. Nobody cried. Nobody threw punches. Just the weight of consequences, settling like Houston humidity. Suffocating, inescapable. Lauren looked at me then, really looked at me, maybe for the first time in years. She saw the soldier, not the golden retriever. The wolf, not the pet. Her mouth formed words, but no sound came. Travis stood up slowly, carefully, like sudden movements might make it worse. Asked if we could talk about this, work something out. Jim answered for me. Told him any communication should go through lawyers. The criminal investigation was out of our hands now. Best to cooperate fully. Maybe the DA would be lenient. Maybe. They left together, but separately. Travis first, walking like a man heading to execution. Lauren followed 5 minutes later, after signing acknowledgement of receipt for the divorce papers. She stopped at the door, turned back. For a moment, I thought she might apologize. Instead, she asked about her things. I told her coordinate with Jim. She nodded and left. The door closed with finality. Jim and I sat in silence for a while, listening to the rain that had started during the meeting. Finally, he asked how I felt. I told him the truth. Empty, like a house after the movers leave. All the furniture in my marriage gone, leaving just space and echo. He said that was normal, said it would fill back up eventually, just with different things, better things. The next months blurred by in legal procedures and paperwork, depositions, mediations, negotiations. Travis's shop mysteriously closed for renovations that became permanent. His wife filed for divorce after the local news picked up the story. Lauren disappeared from Houston entirely. Last I heard working at a call center in Dallas. The golden girl reduced to reading scripts. The publicity was unexpected but helpful. The story of a veteran betrayed by his wife and competitor struck a nerve. Local news ran it as a David versus Goliath tale. The Houston Chronicle did a feature on veteran-owned businesses. My phone rang constantly with new customers wanting to support the wrong soldier. Americans love an underdog story, especially one with clear villains and heroes. The mayor, facing a tough re-election, made a public show of awarding my shop the city's fleet maintenance contract. Photo op at City Hall, handshake, and promise of supporting local veterans. Politics is theater, but sometimes the show benefits the right people. That contract became the foundation for everything that followed. I started hiring veterans exclusively, not for publicity, but for trust. These were people who understood loyalty, who knew that your word meant something, who'd learned that the person next to you could save your life or end it. The shop became less like a business and more like a unit. We had each other's backs in ways civilian workplaces never could. Within a year, I'd opened a second location. Within 3, we had 5 shops across Greater Houston. Rhodes Auto Repair became Rhodes Automotive Group. The logo was redesigned, professional and clean, though I kept the original sign from the first shop in my office. A reminder where it started and why. 5 years passed. 5 years of 16-hour days and 7-day weeks. 5 years of turning pain into purpose, betrayal into building. The business grew, but more importantly, I grew. Learned to trust again, carefully, slowly. Learned that not everyone carries knives behind their smiles. Learned that success is the best revenge, but peace is the best success. The charity gala was at the Petroleum Club, Oil money pretending to care about veterans' causes. I was a platinum sponsor now, writing checks that would have made the old Michael's eyes water. Black tie required, which meant renting a tux that made me look like a penguin who'd lost his way. But it was for a good cause, helping guys like me who'd come back from the sandbox struggling to adjust. I was standing by the window, watching Houston's skyline sparkle like stars that had fallen to earth, when I saw her, Lauren, carrying a tray of champagne, wearing the black and white uniform of the catering staff. 5 years had aged her 10. Lines around her eyes, gray creeping into her roots, the exhaustion of survival instead of living. Our eyes met across the room full of Houston's elite. Time stopped, rewound, fast-forwarded all at once. She froze, tray trembling slightly. I could have looked away, pretended not to see her, could have had her removed, one word to the event coordinator, could have made a scene, public humiliation for public betrayal. Instead, I nodded, simple, small, acknowledgement without anger, human recognizing human. She nodded back, then continued serving champagne to people who didn't see her, never saw the help. I turned back to the window, and the view of Houston sprawling endlessly under Texas stars. Someone asked what I was thinking about. Some donor wanted to make small talk. I told them I was admiring the view, the city lights, the sense of possibility. They agreed it was beautiful, then wandered off to find someone more interesting. They didn't understand I wasn't talking about the skyline. I was talking about perspective. From up here, 40 floors above the street, everything looked different, smaller but clearer. Problems that seemed enormous at ground level became manageable from altitude. Like my marriage, my betrayal, my pain. From distance, they were just events, not definitions. The old Michael was seeing Lauren's presence as cosmic injustice, the universe rubbing salt in wounds. The new one saw it as confirmation. We both ended up exactly where our choices led us. She'd gambled everything on deception and lost. I'd rebuilt on truth and won. Not because I was better, but because I'd learned to change my oil before the engine seized. The gala ended, donations collected, backs patted, business cards exchanged. I drove home in my F-150, nothing fancy but reliable, listened to classic rock and thinking about time. How it doesn't heal wounds, but does provide distance. How it doesn't erase pain, but does offer perspective. My house was bigger now, better neighborhood. Pool I never used, but in the garage, my tools were still organized the same way. Wrenches by size, sockets in order. Some things you keep constant, while everything else changes. Some rhythms you maintain when the song switches. I sat in that garage, bourbon in hand, looking at the toolbox that had witnessed my transformation. People assumed I'd rebuilt my business after the divorce. They were wrong. I'd rebuilt myself, taken apart every assumption, every weakness, every blind spot, examined each piece, kept what worked, discarded what didn't, then reassembled everything into something stronger, not better or worse, just different. Like an engine rebuilt with better parts, tighter tolerances, improved design. Still the same basic machine, but upgraded where it counted. The naive trust was gone, replaced with careful verification. The blind faith exchanged for clear sight. The golden retriever evolved into something that could survive in a world of wolves. The bourbon burned pleasant, unlike the bourbon of 5 years ago that had burned with pain. Time really did change things, just not the way people assumed. It didn't make you forget. It made you remember differently. Less sharp, more educational. Less wound, more scar. And scars, as any soldier knows, are just proof you survived. Houston slept around me. For a million people dreaming their dreams. Some would wake to betrayal tomorrow, some to triumph. Most an ordinary Tuesday, which was its own kind of blessing. I raised my glass to them all, to the whole beautiful, terrible, complicated mess of human existence. The view really was incredible, both from my garage and from where I'd landed. Sometimes you have to lose everything to realize you never needed most of it anyway. Sometimes the best thing that can happen is the worst thing you can imagine. Sometimes a betrayal is just life's way of changing your oil before the whole engine locks up. I finished the bourbon, locked the garage, went inside to sleep in a bed that had only known truth for 5 years. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new chances to build something worth keeping. But tonight, I was just Michael Rhodes, mechanic, veteran, survivor. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.